Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again on Talk and Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today, courtesy of our friends across the pond at boxing247.com. Prior to getting into the recap of some of the great fights that went on this weekend, let me just share some news from also across the pond this time. Some sad news. Former EBU heavyweight champ Vladimir Virchis has passed away at the age of 49. According to media reports in the Ukraine, cause of death appears to have been suicide by hanging. It is reported that Virchis had suffered from depression. Sadly, it just goes to show the impact of life, if you will, on boxers. And speaking of life, in Switzerland, I've just learned that someone who once fought Katie Taylor, young lady by the name of Viviane Ubanov, is now accused of hitting her husband, not once, not twice, but 19 times with a bat in 2020. And she's now in investigative custody based on new evidence that was emerged after the prosecutors presented evidence to stop the three-time world title challenger from being allowed bail. The alleged assault resulted in her husband's blood on Ubanoff's shoes. She battled Katie Taylor on the undercard of the anti-Joshua bout with Eric Molina in 2016. But now it looks like she's facing quite a few years in prison in Switzerland and was denied bail for fear that she might go to Brazil, where there's no extradition treaty. The reason I bring it up is just to prove, quite frankly, the impact, as I said earlier, on life, on boxers. But this young lady must have been traumatized to the point where to hit her husband 19 times with a bat. She must have been quite upset at what he'd been doing to her or has done to her. Anyway, it'll all come out in the courts, and we may or may not hear about the outcome. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about earlier, some of the cards on the weekend of impact. Ilunga Makabu defeated Thabiso Machuna. The WBC Cruiserweight champion, Ilunga Makabu, who's now 29-2 with 25 knockouts, fighting out of Johannesburg, successfully defended his title for the second time by earning a split decision over WBC Silver Cruiserweight title holder Thabiso Machuna, who's 23-6 with 13 knockouts. The judges' scorecard had 115, 113, 116, 112 for Makabu, while Nathan Palmer saw it as 115, 113 for Machuna. Said Makabu of his victory, "Today I didn't come for the knockout. I just came to show that I can box. I'm going to box," and he's hoping to fight Canelo next, "and knock Canelo out in my next fight, baby." In his United States debut, the 34-year-old Makabu pressed the action against his compatriot and successfully followed his team's game plan from the opening bell to run his unbeaten streak to 10. "We were leading the fight comfortably," said Makabu's trainer, Damian Durant. Junior Makabu had boxed beautifully. "We knew what Machuna was about. He brought in some elements that surprised us. I told Junior not to look for the knockout. If it comes, we'll take it. All I wanted for round one was points. He said to me, 'I got you, baby.'" Congratulations to that young man. Elsewhere, we saw that on that same card, Trevor Bryan defeated Jonathan Guidry. This is all taking place, by the way, at the W.D. Packard Music Hall in Ohio this past weekend. Undefeated 32-year-old heavyweights Floridian Trevor Bryan, who's now 22-0 with 50 knockouts, utilized his 20-pound weight and 5-inch height advantage to narrowly defend his WBA crown for the initial time in a split decision triumph over WBA number 13 ranked contender Jonathan Guidry, who's now 17-1-2 with 10 knockouts, fighting out of Louisiana. Judges Nathan Palmer, Brian Kennedy saw the action-packed fight, 118, 109, 116, 111 respectively for Bryan, while Steve Weisfeld scored at 115, 112 for Guidry. A confident Bryan, who captured the vacant WBA heavyweight title by flooring Bermain Stivine twice before referee Gentle stopped the contest at 126 to the 11th round exactly 1 year ago on January 29, 2021, looked to the future while praising his game opponent. He said, "Trevor Bryan is here to stay," said the Fort Lauderdale resident. "I showed that tonight I am the I am only going to get better and keep improving my skills. I worked until the final bell. I've taken my talents overseas. I'm going to make those fights against the top three, which is Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Alexander Usyk. I deserve those fights. This is a stepping stone for me. Shout out to Jonathan Guidry. He was a tough opponent. Well, we'll see what happens in the heavyweight division, as Christian from Boxing 247 and I often discuss on our Thursday show. Elsewhere, let's see, out of that same card, we saw Southpaw Johnny Langston, who's 10-3 with 4 knockouts, and won a contest out of Sarasota, Florida. Earned an NABA cruiserweight belt by thoroughly dominating Nick Kisner, who's 22-6-1, 6 knockouts, at fighting out of Baltimore, Maryland, en route to a 5th round TKO. Unfazed by his counterpart's decision to alternate as both a righty and lefty, the Fighting Floridian recorded his first knockout when a flurry of unanswered punches sent Kisner to one knee at 29 seconds of the 5th round. Elsewhere, utilizing a 60-pound weight advantage, Dakar Scott, who's 7-0 with 6 knockouts out of Georgia, captured the vacant NABA gold heavyweight title by registering a 10-round split decision over Ahmed Hefni, who's 13-2 with 5 knockouts, fighting out of Egypt via Queens, New York. These, if you all recall, these are all the fights promoted by Don King. Opening the 6th championship fight card, Southpaw out of Newburgh, New York, native Treshawn Wiggins, who's 13-5-3 with 7 knockouts, secured the vacant NABA welterweight title by scoring a 3rd round TKO over Cody Wilson. In the walkout bout following the main event, Michael Moore, who's now 19-3 with 8 knockouts of Cleveland, pitched a near shutout over Anthony Lenk, who's now 17-8 with 7 knockouts, fighting out of Niagara Falls, New York, earning a 10-round unanimous decision. The NABA middleweight title was on the line for Lenk only as Moore weighed in over the 160-pound limit and was not eligible to win the vacant crown. Veteran boxing announcer and Florida Boxing Hall of Famer Bob Alexander, as well as former WBA lightweight champion Mancini, called the action for the pay-per-view broadcast. Over Mexico City, we see Yersin Aguilar won the WBA Fede Cabribe lightweight title with a unanimous decision over Juan Marcos Rodriguez this Friday night at the Bibi Auditorium in Mexico City. The new regional champion got the judges' scorecards 97-94, 96-93, and 96-93 after 10 rounds of good action and exchanges by both Mexican warriors. Aguilar's energy was noticeable, especially in the final rounds of the fight, where he connected well with Rodriguez to score points that ultimately secured him the victory. The 27 Aguilar now has a total of 12 wins, 6 losses, and 3 knockouts, while Rodriguez dropped his record to 10 wins, 4 losses, and 8 knockouts. Over at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we saw Robson Conciso versus Xavier Martinez. Conciso, out of Brazil, 17-1 with 8 knockouts, defeated Xavier Martinez, 17-1 with 11 knockouts over 10 rounds in a WBC super featherweight eliminatory duel held this past Saturday night. Conciso, third in the WBC standings, won a unanimous decision over Martinez by scores of 190, 99-91, and 98-92. Early on, Martinez proved dangerous, wobbling Conciso with a left hook at the end of the 3rd round. Conciso rebounded to clearly win each of the final 5 rounds of the bout. Immediately after the fight, Conciso called for a rematch against Oscar Valdez. I learned a lot from that loss to Oscar Valdez, and because of that, I was able to dedicate myself more in this fight. I was not discouraged by what happened that night. I know who I am. I knew that if I put in the right effort, I could have this kind of performance. But my mind is on Valdez. I definitely want that opportunity. And elsewhere, down in Managua, Nicaragua, we had a fight featuring Francisco Fonseca versus Franco Gutierrez. And Fonseca won the WBA Federatin Super Featherweight title by defeating Gutierrez by knockout in the 2nd round down in, as I say, Managua, which is the capital city of Nicaragua. The venue, which is named in honor of a Nicaraguan world boxing legend champion, Polideporto Axaxas Aguayo, was attended by quite great talent from the Central American country and had Fonseca as the main protagonist with a quick knockout that helped him win the regional belt of the Pioneer organization. Fonseca, with international experience, would battle against good opponents and his best to define early against his compatriot and filled with excitement, the audience present at the event on Saturday night. Good for him. Elsewhere, down in Pomona, California, we saw Jose Marufo go toe-to-toe against Angel Rodriguez. Marv Nation Promotions kicked off its first event of the year in dramatic fashion as Jose Marufo, 13-10-2, 5 knockouts, fighting out of Sonora, Mexico, scored an upset unanimous decision win against Angel Moreno Rodriguez, who's now 10-1 with 7 knockouts, fighting out of California to capture the WBC USNBC Silver Super Lightweight Championship. The bout headlined a full night of action at the Derby Room in Pomona, California, and was streamed live on Marv Nation's official YouTube channel. Both fighters proved exciting toe-to-toe action for 8 grueling rounds. Ultimately, however, Marufo's experience gave him a distinct advantage in the exchanges, which eventually earned him the decision victory. Marufo won with 2 scores of 80-72, while one judge scored the fight 79-73. My opponent was a warrior, said Marufo. He has a big crowd, a lot of support. That motivated me more in the fight. I'll defend this title against any big name. This win is a dream come true for me. In the co-main event, Alejandro Reyes, who's now 6-0 with 4 knockouts out of Baja, California, Mexico, defeated Antonio Watal, who's 3-8-3 with 1 knockout out of Houston, Texas, via a 6-round unanimous decision in the super flyweight fight. Reyes won with scores of 59-55, 59-55, and 60-54. Reyes, who hails from renowned Westside Boxing Club in Los Angeles, delivered a boxing lesson that featured come forward offense from 5 rounds before eliminating with a 6th round in which he boxed intelligently from the outside. Reyes also brought an enormous crowd who cheered him on from the beginning to end. Elsewhere on that card, Alfredo Hernandez, who's now 7-0 with 4 knockouts out of Downey, California, scored a unanimous decision win against Nicaraguan slugger Osmel Mayorga, who's 2-4 with 1 knockout in a 4-round super welterweight clash. Hernandez won with 3 scores of 40-36. Rising Mexican prospect Andy Dominguez, who's now 5-0 with 3 knockouts, scored a stunning knockout win over fellow countryman Jose Rodriguez, who's now 1-2 with 1 knockout in a scheduled 6-rounder in the super flyweight division. Dominguez ended matters at 2:27 of the very first round. Also on that card, Kyle Irwin, who's now 4-0 with 2 knockouts out of Oceanside, California, beat Jalen Phillips, who's now 2-9 out of Atlanta, Georgia, via split decision in a 4-round super lightweight division fight. Sergio Jimenez, who's now 5-0 with 4 knockouts out of Baldwin Park, California, defeated Ray Santiago, who's now 2-9 out of Albany, New York, via knockout in the 3rd round of a 4-round cruiserweight fight. And Avion Cardinal is now 5-0 with 4 knockouts out of Long Beach, stopped Tyler Jacques, who's 0-2-1, who fights out of Orlando, Florida, in the 2nd round of a super middleweight fight, originally scheduled for 4. And Jesus Torres Beltran, 5-1, 3 knockouts out of LA, beat Ryan Venabell, 2-10 out of Roanoke, Virginia, via unanimous decision. Carlos Rodriguez, 2-0, 2 knockouts, fighting out of Jalisco, Mexico, defeated Yarel Nettles, 1-2 out of Denver, Colorado, via knockout in a 4-round cruiserweight fight. And that was all held under the title of the Box Fest Round 1. As I said, held in Pomona, California. Congratulations to those promoters and those fighters. Over in Hamburg, last story of the day, Jan Kosobutsky versus Johann Du Halpas. That fight took place in the Universum Gym in Hamburg. That is going to take place. We were talking about an upcoming fight here. Hamburg is expecting an electrifying evening of fights, with the main fight being between Jan Kosobutsky versus Johann Du Halpas for the WBC International Heavyweight title, and Jose Lardut versus Dusan Velitic for the WBC International Silver Heavyweight title. Ismail Ozan Otto is looking forward to Champions Night. After a long dry spell in German boxing, there will finally be fights at the highest level again. Universum has thus arrived in the Champions League of Boxing. Well, there you have it. And that entire event will be broadcast live on our YouTube channel, says Ozan Otto, called Universum TV. All right, thanks for joining me once again, boxing fans, on another episode of Boxing News Today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to hear when we're coming up next, such as 4 p.m. this afternoon. That's in a few hours' time, Eastern Daylight Time, when I go on the air with Mike or at 4 for Knuckle Up. Talk to you later.